What's going on, RuneScape.com? It's your boy Ojama Garrett's back with another episode of In Defense of Multiscape. So I got some comments on the video. A lot of feedback. It was awesome video. Maybe a part 3 will come out, whatever. Just keep the conversation going and stuff like that. But I got some comments. I got a comment from a user who was very insightful. So I kind of wanted to unpack that and get everybody up to speed with that whole thing. So I put together part 2 here. I felt like we needed a part 2. So quick recap of episode 1 is that Multiscape is not against the rules. Jagex explicitly allows multi-logging and trading between accounts as long as you don't get an unfair advantage, such as rigging the results of a minigame. Multiscape is not inherently unfair. Everyone has access to this strategy. It's no more unfair than someone playing 10 hours a day or having a high-end PC. Multiscape does not manipulate the market. Buy limits were created to stop scams, not bulk trading. If mass buying were bannable, everybody who would buy items more than the buy limits at a time outside of the GE via peer-to-peer would have to be banned by that logic. Multiscape adds value to the game. Multiscapers provide liquidity, speed up trades, reduce waste, and enable other playstyles like skilling, Iron Man efficiency, etc. Unfair advantage does not equal any advantage. Only when the outcomes are rigged, like forcing a minigame result, does it cross the line. Now, there's a user, Jacob Osrs. He's a YouTuber. He's just starting a nice, really cool free-to-play series. You should go check that out. I thought it was really good. Had me hooked the whole 10 minutes. It's like the opposite of me. He took a lot of time to make one video. I just spend a lot of time making a lot of videos. But yeah, you guys will like it. It's a really cool concept. Anyway, so he says in a comment, multi-logged accounts must not interact together to gain an unfair advantage in gameplay. This definition is so gray. What would pet boosting be considered then if not an unfair advantage? Good question. Like any normal player who wants a corp pet has to accept that they're doing 500 plus hours of solo corp, or they need friends to help them, or boosting. But essentially, I'm not trying to, you know what I mean. But a multi-logger, on the other hand, can grind the pet for himself in 1/10 the time, and a booster could probably do it in 1/10 of a multi-logger's time. But obviously, I'll say I'm in full support of multi-logging. I hate this definition, and even the example I gave, I personally think is dog shit. It is against the rules to have a number of accounts in a minigame all controlled by the same person in order to try and guarantee the minigame outcome. So you mean to tell me, let's say I had a low-level Iron Man and I'm trying to get my Void armor, but all the PC teams are failing because they don't know the metas, so then I bring my maxed main and carry these PC games because I'm tired of losing. You mean to tell me that this would be bannable? I've literally done this for myself before, and I can even recall a video by Solo Mission where he did the exact thing. That Solo Mission video is still on YouTube, by the way, no bans. So it becomes very murky as to what's unfair and what isn't, and I feel ya. I don't like the word unfair either. So, continuing though, Matt9500 comments as well. I was wondering if Eevescape broke that rule when he did Castle Wars on 10 accounts after they added supply crates. I would say, technically, if you really wanted to, yeah, that's against the rules. But you could argue that very easily is what I'm saying. That's probably a fair assumption to make. So my first response, I covered that up. I must have covered up that comment as well. I got to pay more attention to that. Sorry about that. So my first response, at Jacob Osrs, you're absolutely right that the definition of unfair advantage gets murky. But here's the thing people don't often understand. What counts as unfair only makes sense after what we established as fair. Jagex allows multi-logging. That means the baseline assumption is playing on multiple accounts is fair play. So now we define unfair from there using extreme cases. Like Castle Wars, imagine it's 10v10 and one person logs 9 accounts on the opposing team just to throw the match. That's clearly rigging, not just multiscaping. So I said stuff like this, I said it very carefully to knock out people's preferences, because a lot of the issue with the unfair is it's just people have preferences, and then when they prefer something the way they play, they see somebody else who's doing something else that they are not benefiting from or enjoy benefiting from, they just scream it's unfair. So that's why I use my extreme cases. We work from the extreme cases and we work our way back from there. That's what my example is to illustrate. The example you gave about helping your own Iron Man at pest control, that's not about manipulating other players' outcomes. That's using your own time and skill to compensate for randoms. Solo Mission did it, no bans. It's not exploitative, it's efficient. I should have added there, Solo Mission did it, so it set a precedent. Because the YouTubers set precedents, and they do determine how Jagex enforces their own rules. So, sorry. Anyway, same with Multiscape flipping. People say using alts to bypass GE limits is unfair, but the truth is everyone can do it, especially in free-to-play where there are zero barriers. That makes it one of the most fairest, scalable systems in the game. The only time it crosses the line when outcomes are guaranteed by denying others a fair shot. Minigame rigging, etc. And I should have added, like, inflating the price to make players think an item is more expensive than it actually is. That is scamming. Anyway, I'm foreshadowing to a bunch of the slides, so I'm sorry. Jacob OSRS's rebuttal. Ojama Garrett's OSRS. Well, hang on now. Let's think about the language here. It is against the rules to have a number of accounts in a minigame all controlled by the same person in order to try and guarantee the minigame outcome. Notice the word try in there. If we're to take this definition word for word, then it doesn't matter if you attempt to manipulate a minigame is successful. Simply trying to do so is bannable. So I agree with this 100%, but I would say that it's pedantic, and I don't think that Jagex meant to be vague to ban people that they just don't like or subjectively or something like that, but they more so are vague on purpose so that they can catch, so they don't get like backlash from the players if they find something that's exploitable that they need to jump in at. Because if they make the rules too tight, too legalistic, then that really restricts how they're allowed to like enforce their own policies to protect the game integrity. So like the US law, like it's very difficult to get the laws changed. So that's just kind of my quick take there. I think I didn't include any of that reasoning in the slides I built. That's why I wanted to try to include it here. Also, when you said that's not about manipulating other players' outcomes, I'm continuing his comment, sorry. Also, when you said that's not about manipulating other players' outcomes, that's using your own time and skill to compensate for randoms. That the text doesn't say anything about manipulating other players' outcomes. What I said in my comment, just to pause real quick, what I said in my comment, I was implying that's what the spirit of what they're trying to do is. But I should have said something about that maybe here. But it doesn't say it in the text, but what the text, all texts read more than what they're saying. And that's where interpretation comes in. But yeah, because that's what nuance is, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, the text doesn't say anything about manipulating other players' outcomes. It says just trying to guarantee the outcome of the game. In the PC example, the outcome would be to win the match. Just because all the players are on one team against the NPCs doesn't make it any less manipulative. It's just allowed in that case because it's not being done to the detriment of other players. Essentially, a multi-logger is using that alt to gain an unfair advantage in PC. That's subjective as well. You are making a fact claim there, and it is not a fact claim. That's a subjective claim. But, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to nitpick here, sorry. But it's also granting that the advantage to all other players in that game should they win, so everyone's happy. So he's saying that nobody would complain about it because everybody's getting the same result, even though you're getting an unfair advantage over the other players in a game, whatever. I don't know. I'm obviously not disagreeing with anything you're saying, but what is fair or exploitable is totally, entirely subjective. And I totally get everything he's coming from here. Okay, it makes total sense to have these worries because, you know, Majed, is that his name? The guy who like. You know, corruption exists. Humans are corruptible. So I totally understand the sentiment. And with these slides, heading forward, we'll try to tackle those. My rebuttal and solutions. I mostly agree with your arguments. Jagex's language is vague, and this is my main problem with Jagex's rules. Jagex's language is vague, and then opens the door for misinterpretation or overreaction if the community pressure spikes. A new mod or policy shift could shift the goalposts. That's why I think the solution isn't to fear Multiscape, but to fight to refine the rules and focus enforcement on bad behavior, not player count. Multiple accounts equals multiple people. So when Jagex explicitly permits multi-logging and inter-account trading, each account should be treated as an independent player. So this is one of my solutions for how to deal with the misinterpretations or subjective reasoning or dealing with other players who are biased against multi-loggers. This being a legal definition in the rules or something along the lines of that would help curb a lot of fear and anxiety, because if each account is its own person, should be treating it as an individual player, then it solves a lot of issues. It makes it so that like each case is based on an individual basis, and you don't have to worry about losing all of your accounts to a chain ban unless they're all like integrated with each other. So any advantage you gain by multiscaping is identical in principle to the advantage you gain from coordinating with real life friends. So I put this in here to then emphasize that if I'm a multi-logger and I'm playing on 10 accounts, it is no different than a player who has 9 friends, and those 10 people like to give each other gear, share loot, do all that other type of stuff. It's the same types of advantage, and honestly, depending on the 10 friends who are coordinating with each other, I would argue they have a higher advantage. Let's say YouTubers. Let's say all the YouTubers that are friends, like KempQ and I don't know who the friend groups are. I don't know what the circles are or anything like that. But it would be silly to say, or it would be silly to think that all of the YouTubers, like let's say Oda Block has a 500 bill bank. If me and him shared that bank, we would have a significant advantage over 99.99% of the player base. But then nobody would say that's unfair. Sharing items is not unfair. It's the same concept with Multiscape. Like a lot of this, like it's not perfect representation, but it's really, really, really close. Multiscape is like 2 people, let's say 2 accounts. I'm making this up on the fly. It's not going to look really good in the video, but whatever. 2 accounts. They're both owned by me. So then they're just 2 friends that are like taking my brain and cutting it in half and sticking it in 2 different bodies. So it's like half as effective for me to play on 2 accounts as it is 1 account. But then it's like 2 people who are half as smart as me who are friends. That's what multiscaping is. And then if you take it times 20, you're taking your brain and cutting it into 20 parts. You know what I mean? And it's still equal because it's only, you're only to get out of it what one person is able to get out of those things, and et cetera, et cetera. Don't want to ramble too much longer on that. So let's just move on. So then another solution is collective liability. Oh crap, I misspelled that. Oh no, here they come. Jagex already chain bans all accounts linked to a proven scam or minigame rigging scheme. Think Rot and Botters. So like Reign of Terror, they got banned after they were caught cheating during the demo mode to try to get all that money and stuff with DDoSing and all that other stuff they do. Plus their targeted harassment against like people like Oda Block every time he talks about it, and now maybe me because I said their name, but who knows. I'm not their dad. I don't really care what they do. I'm just using it as a example here. So this mirrors real-world law. All members of a criminal cartel share liabilities. Therefore, scale isn't the problem. Malicious coordination is. And I bring these up, this up because it's not about multi-logging. The core premise of what becomes unfair or what is cheating or should be against the rules would be malicious intent. So if I'm just playing the game without malicious intent or malicious like damage to the game, then I should be allowed to conduct myself however I want. And the rules should be judged based on malicious coordination and intent and damages and stuff like that. Not just simply because, I mean, you know, I'm essentially just trying to pull that multiscaping is not unfair. But like, a lot of people just think they do the first order thinking. They don't second order think. They go, you have multiple accounts? That's market manipulation. Just because they think multiscape, multiple trading equals market manipulation, but then can't tell me why it's market manipulation effectively. A lot of people probably try to, but it's not. Like if you in that example, if you actually manipulate the market prices to try to scam people, that is against the rules and you will get banned doing that. If you just simply trade what the market is trading for, that's not malicious. That's just playing the game. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's what all this is for. But this one was kind of a weak slide, I thought. I mean, this one. I felt like this was needed to just talk about this, but kind of a weaker example. But borrowing a twisted bow. So this is an example. Whatever. Friend A lends friend B a T-bow for a month. Massive DPS boost, faster kills, more GP. Community verdict, not unfair. If loaning gear is acceptable, owning multiple accounts that supply you with gear resources make trades on your behalf must also be acceptable, provided both are manual, not real-world traded or botted. So this just further goes into the argument that Multiscape is not against the rules, because if you're okay with your friends, like if you're playing pest control with your friends, like if you have a team, that's an unfair advantage. That would be like saying like a 5-man team in Call of Duty has an advantage against 5 pugs or 5 randoms on a game. And some would argue, yeah, that's unfair and that shouldn't be allowed. But it is allowed on RuneScape because Jagex sets the rules and it falls within that same... I mean, logically, based on that premise, borrowing things to other players is the same thing as me loaning gold from one account to another. So like if one's okay, the one that most people would say is okay, then the thing that multiscapers are doing is okay. So where advantage becomes unfair. So fair, coordinating your own alts for efficiency, lending or trading items between accounts at market prices, providing bulk liquidity to the grand exchange. Unfair, intentionally sabotaging a closed term team activity. I looked that up because I was like, it kept autocorrecting, e.g., like I was trying to put example, but it kept autocorrecting this and it's like Latin. But anyway, sorry, it's neither here nor there. Example, AFK alts in Castle Wars to throw the match. This, in my opinion, would also just fall under scamming. So this whole term for unfair should just fall under scamming. If you scam people, the same metrics that you would, is this a scam? Yes, no, then this is bannable. But price fixing, pump and dump schemes to deceive buyers, botting and macros, these are things that are unfair. But I do agree that unfair is just a bad term to describe what multi-loggers are doing. Subjective versus objective enforcement. Yes, the wording in, so this is to address the comment about how the wording is so dumb and the wording can feel broad, but the only subjectivity that counts is jagexes. ModMattK personally confirmed 1K account multiscaping is legal if done manually. So there was a player who approached me during my false ban, and he has been falsely banned. He's been falsely chain banned 4 or 5 times, tweeted at the mods. Mod Blighted, I believe he said, was the one that got him unbanned every single time. And he's gone on before he even started doing it. He was doing this way before me. So back when 07scape was just 07scape, back way long time ago, when it first came out, he got on a Twitch stream and he was talking to ModMattK, and he asked him specifically, is it okay for me to play on more than one account? Yes. Is it okay for me to trade on multiple accounts? Yes. So I can have like hundreds of accounts, buy items to bypass the buy limits, and that's within the terms of service. And he said, yes, it's all fine. So like, take that as you will. The guys in the all box community, whatever, you know what I mean? The all box community would not exist if the strategy I used, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like the whole, I'm only bringing that up as a social proof to prove that also that this type of trading is fair and not bannable, because the precedent is set by all of, like, they would not have gotten to that size. All box would not have gotten to its size if this inherently was against the rules. Public multi-scapers on YouTube, EVscape, Otoblock, etc. I don't know. Otoblock, he's a multi-scaper in essence, as in he has a lot of different accounts. That's why I just use him specifically. But the only one I can remember off the top of my head is EVscape. And they have operated for years without bans. So precedent plus direct mod clarification equals de facto objectivity. So like by precedent, you know, the subjectiveness of whether this is against the rules or not is actually pretty clear, that based on how other YouTubers are presenting, you know, are conducting themselves, they set the precedent for what's okay for all of us to use. You know what I mean? They made it so that AHKs back in the day, which are now against the rules, they made it back in the day that AHK was okay because they were doing it through streams and people were allowing it. So then Jagex had to put a kerfuffle on that because players took it too far beyond what the precedent that the YouTubers were setting for everyone. So my brain kind of fell apart there a little bit with this because we're pretty far into this and it took me forever to make this. But conclusion, I think we should throw away the word unfair because ultimately it is entirely subjective, and focus on more what is a scam. This would solve 99% of multiscaping issues, and they can focus on real-world trading, scamming, and botting instead of worrying about what's fair or unfair, which unfair is already clearly defined by real-world trade, scamming, and botting. But anyway, I don't even like the word manipulation, by the way, because you can argue manipulation is such a if you want to get super pedantic about it, manipulating could be like, oh, I manipulated the market because I just bought a lot of them because I wanted them. So then that person could be manipulating the market. You know what I mean? Like, or if somebody spends 10 years collecting fire runes from the store, you know, they spend 10 years, they do it 12 hours a day, and then they just dump all of those items into the GE and crash the price for a week. That would be manipulation. But I think a lot of people would think it's silly to ban that player because he did that. They're only going to say it's only when you inject the multiscape into that scenario that they'd be like, oh, yep, bannable, ban, that's manipulation, ban, because the word multiscape. And I think that a lot of players who think multiscape is bannable or bad or immoral, it's just a preference bias. Again, I'm just going to 99% of the hatred against multiscape and why people think it should be bannable is preference bias, just bias and discrimination. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Check out the links down below. Courses on pre-sale for $49. Get from 0 accounts 700 plus and make potentially hundreds of mils per week. 30-day money back guarantee extended after the course is released. What that means is if you buy the pre-sale, the money back guarantee extends 30 days after I release it, so there's no risk to you. Gumroad also if I remember correctly, Gumroad also offers a 90-day return policy, so you don't need to trust me. You can trust the company. But anyway, that being said, thank you guys for watching, and hope you have a nice day, and I hope I made sense mostly. See ya.